Thank you, Andy. So first of all, I think it's fair that I explain my interest about anti-fragility in project management. So in fact, I'm the lucky PM, as you noticed, so I quite believe in luck. But actually, I also think that there are things that are sometimes out of our control. COVID, the pandemic that we are experiencing, being a clear example of just that. And even in those situations, projects might benefit. Because in the same way, if everything is so certain as projects failing, it's a common situation, perhaps we should try to make the best out of that situation rather than just accept it as it is. So I would like to talk to you today about disorder in project management, and how we can gain from that disorder, perhaps. I'm also studying antifragility in project management, so I'm doing a PhD in that topic. I'm still in my early stages, and I invite you also to be part of this research if you are willing to contribute. So I'll be sharing my contact details at the end for exactly that same purpose. So although I'm still in the early stages of my research, the fact that I've been studying this topic for a while, and also the popularity that it's gained recently, has allowed me to identify some views that I would like to share with you today. The first slide that you can see on the screen is actually a provocative thought in the way that even when confronted with disorder, like for instance, when the letters are not showing in the place where we would expect it to be, our brain is shaped, is wired in a way that would allow us to read it. Why? Because we don't read every letter by itself, but words as a whole. So it must be really smart if you can read this already. But let's now see what is meant by that disorder. So when exposed to disorder, most organisms, most even humans, we tend to dislike it. However, there are benefits in embracing disorder. And I want to share the example of the secret life of pearls. How are pearls formed? Well, pearls are formed out of disorder in a way that they exist as an oyster shell, and when what we would call an external body invades the pearl reacts to that stress by creating a fluid. And over time, that fluid actually becomes what we know as a pearl. So actually, from that stress that was imposed on the pearl, we can sometimes gain beautiful things, as the example of that golden pearl that you can see on the screen. The same applies, for instance, with our muscles. We would say that actually stress on our muscles is not that a bad thing. Think of it. We all go to the gym, or we should at least. I haven't been in a while, but we should. And what that exercise, that stress that is imposed in our muscles do is it helps us to grow the muscle, to be more resilient in a way, so that we can be stronger and much more flexible. So a bit of stress is actually something that I would like to invite you to consider as something that is not always a bad thing. In fact, Nassim Taleb, also the author of a book called The Black Swan, has written and has coined the concept of antifragility through a book called Antifragile: Things That Came from Disorder. And what he tells us is that some things benefit from shocks. They actually grow when they're exposed to that type of disorder, to stress. And rather than neglecting or even trying to avoid uncertainty, trying to avoid that stress, they actually claim for it. They actually welcome it, and they seek it, which is even more fascinating. So they seek that risk, that adventure, that uncertainty, and that disorder that we were discussing before. So if we are to then compare how does fragility aligns with antifragility, and I apologize, I can see that in the screen, or at least in my screen, the words don't seem to fit correctly there, so I apologize for that. A bit of disorder that I'm introducing in here on purpose, let's say. We can then see that there are different states of how we can perceive systems or organisms. from a state of fragility to antifragility. So something would be fragile when that system, that entity, hates disorder. So from a volatility point of view, that is the extreme. At that point, if we look at the stressors, this would be entities that would try to resist the shock, and they like to stay the same. They don't like change. So they are resilient only during what is considered to be normal change, business as usual. From the perspective of randomness, those are the entities that are the most harmed or penalized because they have nothing to gain. Therefore, they don't embrace that risk. So they suffer and they want tranquility. They resist that disorder. We then have a state of being anti-agile. So agile has become quite popular from a recent couple of years as a way of adapting to changing conditions. So anti-agility in this case would be the entity or the system that does not adapt. It does not change. It does not like that randomness, and it resists that change. Then we have a situation of robustness. So this would be almost a neutral state. So this would be the example of, like say, a rock, in the way that it sustains, it doesn't care too much about that change, about that stress. It just endures it. On the opposite, by the way, if we look at the fragility, again, this would be, for instance, a glass or a porcelain. So it would be much more fragile, as the name says, to any stress that might occur. Then we have a state of agility. So in our continuum, that is the next step. So this is a situation where that entity actually adapts to change, and could even say that they embrace change in the way that that change is, first of all, inspected, but then we do that adaptation. So they do attempt to move towards the spectrum where disorder is loved. And finally, we have the state of antifragility, which is the opposite in this case of being fragile. So while the things that are fragile, they would suffer, they want tranquility, they would be resisting disorder. Antifragility, on the other hand, those are the ones that actually evolve and grow from disorder, and therefore that's why they actually search for that type of stress in their lives. So at this point, we have elements that do love disorder, that actually gain or benefit from it, so they have nothing to lose, so why not? And they actually embrace it as part of their day-to-day life. They are always trying to become much more anti-fragile. So they would absorb that shock in the same way as the state of robustness would do, but actually they wouldn't stay the same, which is what we tend to perceive as being resilient. In an anti-fragile state, we actually get better. We improve as a consequence of that stress. And this is not exclusive to complex systems or complex organisms. In fact,
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.